Welcome, everyone. We are really happy you are joining us today for this, our first ever 100% virtual community forum. It certainly has been a long and intense few weeks as we all have made major adjustments in our lives and began our journey together, learning, teaching, and working almost exclusively online. In these difficult and unsettling times, it's so important that we continue to stay together, even if we are physically apart. So thank you for being part of this forum today and connecting with us in this way. Our goal and focus for this particular forum is to provide some insight into what has been going on behind the scenes at Babson and to offer some early reflections on our community's response and plans relating to COVID-19. Primarily, though, we're here to help answer your questions, and we promise we will do that to the best of our ability, recognizing the reality that there is still great uncertainty and many unknowns as the world deals with this health crisis. I want to thank so many of you for submitting questions in advance, which has been terrific. As a reminder, though, if you have a question to pose to our panelists today, please send your question to healthupdate2020@babson.edu. Again, this is our first attempt to bring this forum 100% online, and we very much hope everything will go smoothly, but please do bear with us if there are any technical issues. I want to just say, though, that we're incredibly grateful to our entire ITSD team for their tireless efforts to keep our campus up and running virtually, and to John Florendo in particular, who is driving our session today. Hi there, John. Thanks so much. We're going to get started today first by hearing from our three panelists. We have President Spinelli, Vice President of Student Affairs and Dean of Students Larry Ward, and Babson's Dean of Faculty Ken Matsuno. President Spinelli, I'm going to ask for you to kick us off.
Thank you, Kelly. I want to join you in humbly thanking the Babson community for what I consider to be a near heroic response to the COVID-19 crisis. The teaming of a myriad of stakeholders is inspiring. No doubt as I go through this, I'll fail to thank all who deserve our gratitude. Please forgive me and know that it is my heartfelt appreciation and that of the Babson community. Our decision-making has been and continues to be guided by two key imperatives. First, we will protect the health and safety of the Babson community and beyond. We have received directives from the government and obligations to our neighbors. Our decisions are designed with those obligations at the forefront. Second, we will maintain academic continuity for our students on their pathway to their degrees. The learning experiences might be different, but our faculty are deeply expert in their fields and students will progress. The transition to online classes helps us achieve both imperatives. I would argue that this experience, curated by our committed faculty and wonderful support from ITSD, who are equally great professionals, is a real-time case study in entrepreneurial thought and action. The quick and decisive action to go online also triggered the need for massive logistics. First, faculty, IT, staff, and administration immediately ramped up to convert 650 courses to an online format within a week. Superb teaming, overwhelming positive attitude, and a can-do spirit was inspiring. We are tracking implementation to learn and continually improve, but no imperfection can mar this remarkable achievement. Health expertise, compassionate care, and acute counseling was and is provided by our health professionals and was invaluable during the crisis. Move out of thousands of learners and deep cleaning of rooms, and indeed deep cleaning of all the physical plant, was diligently performed by facilities personnel and continue to this day. Hardship accommodation exceptions, curated by Student Life, who worked tirelessly, total about 80 students requiring special social distancing requirements and including specialized meal planning, packaging, and delivery designed and implemented by dining services. Security personnel have been under enormous pressure during all of this and performed like the professionals they are. The conditions were sometimes exacerbated by emotionally charged behavior that was very sensitively handled by security. I'm grateful for that. Through IT personnel and amazing peer engagement, faculty were trained in the use of technology and online pedagogy. I have to say a number of our faculty, a majority of our faculty, were updated already and have been tuned to a high level. Remote and in-person tech driver training and in partnership with faculty is in place and working well. Coordination with local, state, and federal authorities has been continuous for several weeks and will continue for the foreseeable future. All of this has significant implications to Babson. Most of the negative impact is financial, but I believe this is an investment in our future. We are making difficult decisions about resources, but those decisions are necessary. I am confident that we will emerge from Corona stronger as an institution of higher learning and as a community of caring friends. Babson is famous for entrepreneurship, the entrepreneurial mind, entrepreneurial thought and action, and entrepreneurial leadership. This community is ready to solve big problems, and I'm excited about the future. I might add that for your comic relief, I've grown this beard, and I am going to be upstaged by our Dean of Students, Dean Ward, who is much better looking than I. Dean Ward.
Thank you, President Spinelli. I appreciate the introduction, very kind, if not untrue. Let me join you in expressing my appreciation for our crisis response teams who've done a Herculean job of preparing our campus to move to a virtual environment. As the President noted, we've moved almost 1,900 students off campus and continue to maintain responsibility for a small number, roughly 70, who need to remain on campus for various health, safety, and well-being reasons. I am grateful to all of our student support staff who've stepped up across the college in these unprecedented times. In housing and dining operations, residence education, facilities, public safety, our health and wellness teams, we've asked you to do the impossible, and you have responded with clear focus and effectiveness. Indeed, across every student-facing unit at the college, you all have provided support and guidance under difficult circumstances to students, to families, to other community members who are experiencing a range of emotions, from disappointment to upset to heartbreak, confusion, and sometimes they've been disrespectful, a small number. But you all have responded with great care and professionalism, and I'm grateful for you in these challenging times. I want to talk a little bit about decision-making. We've had to make a number of difficult decisions as a college, as a leadership team, as a result of this pandemic. None was more difficult than postponing commencement and our celebrations for the class of 2020. For our seniors and our graduate students, know that we will find an opportunity to celebrate you, not only throughout the spring and the summer, but in person. We have a fantastic class of 2020 committee on campus who are actively researching ways for us to hold commencement exercises early this fall. You know, we've got a global community and folks from all over the world. We're even exploring possibilities of doing regional commencement ceremonies. So in person, we will celebrate your journey and your accomplishments at Babson and look forward to more decision-making by mid-April on that. Let me wrap up my segment, at least my introduction, by the President talked about the importance of academic continuity and business continuity. And I want to borrow from our SGA President, Wasi, who talks about the continuity of community. And I think that's critically important in these difficult times. One of the things that makes this crisis, this pandemic, so challenging and difficult is that the normal coping mechanisms in a crisis, the ability to go to a gym and exercise, or go shopping, or go to the movies, or that sense of physical touch, the need to give or receive a hug, is either not available or not recommended. And so it's unfortunate that that the term social distancing has been part of our lexicon, because I really think what is necessary is physical distancing, right, and avoiding physical touch. But we need social connection right now more than ever. And so this campus is preparing and has been preparing and actively engaging in that social connection across all of our constituencies. Our virtual teams are looking to support students and to support this community in ways that are really quite creative and unique and absolutely necessary. For example, our student engagement folks recently promoted on Wednesdays We Wear Green, and our students, our faculty and staff really embrace that. And that is that sense of continuity of community that is so important in these times. And so I want to continue that sense of continuity of community. I think it's critically important. We absolutely need it. And let me just end before introducing my colleague, Dr. Matsuno. I really want to encourage you all to stay connected via email, a text, a FaceTime, a Snapchat. Stay connected to someone outside of your circle. Check in on them. It's critically important, and it will help us get through these difficult times. And we absolutely will get through these times. And in my judgment, I think we will be a more innovative, a stronger, and definitely a more resilient institution. With that, let me hand off to Ken Matsuno to talk more about the academic experience and the faculty perspective.
Thank you, Larry. Thank you very much. First of all, I'm really glad that we could all get together this afternoon. I'm sure you and your family had a lot on your plate. And thank you very much for being with us. My name is Ken Matsuno. I'm Dean of Faculty at Babson. We have about 250 faculty members, full-time and part-time combined. Our faculty at Babson are all wonderful people. They are funny, they are smart, they are caring. And having said all that, the faculty can be very interesting group of people to work with. For example, if you ask a question and ask for faculty's opinion about anything, such as online teaching method, if you ask 250 faculty members, and then you will get 500 different opinions. So on March 10th, I think that was when President Spinelli announced that we are going to move to the entire curriculum of Babson to online, 100% online, starting March 23rd. It was like, I had no clue how the faculty could react to it. So in a way, I was a little nervous. All I knew was that there was no other choice, given the circumstances. And we also know that we had a week spring break to prepare for it. So since March 10th, the faculty worked nonstop, no weekends, and of course no spring break, right? We set up a peer support group in each division, and division chairs worked very hard, appointed peer mentors themselves. They started coaching each other, right? ATI Center has been phenomenal, wonderful, right? And there was no time to complain. We enjoy, spending time to complain about anything. We are faculty, you know what I mean? But we are working. I mean, there's no time to complain and preparing for the class. Revising the syllabus and double checking WebEx, recording brain shark slides 3 times in a row. So that was a very busy week, or let's say including since the announcement, that was almost 10 days. Very, very busy 10 days. And then the Monday arrived. Monday this week arrived. Very quiet. It's very quiet morning. And then around 11:30, we started to share, great stories about our faculty and our students. And then sometimes we share comments from parents, one by one, Here are some of the anecdotes that I collected myself in my computer, and then I printed out today. I only share 3 of those. The first is Professor Fritz Fleischmann. He's a professor of literature. He's been here at Babson for a number of years, longer than I have been. We asked him how he is doing. And his response, he said, "No problems here. I taught my first WebEx class synchronously today, and all went swimmingly. We actually went the full 95 minutes. Wait a minute, WebEx session for 95 minutes from Professor Fleischmann. So that was really amazing. I mean, it's not the most recommended way to deliver the synchronous session, 95 minutes, but the excitement of Professor Fleischmann comes through from this message. It takes more structure than face-to-face teaching, Professor Fleischmann continued. I now post journaling prompts on Canvas, for instance, but that's to be expected. So far, so good. So Professor Fritz Fleischmann had a great time the first time he taught online. Another episode, another professor is Kelly Gibson, assistant professor of management. Like Fritz, right? Kelly has never taught online, and she is teaching 3 classes this semester. She had radically shifted her class in a way that is engaging, compassionate, attentive to diverse circumstances that our students have to deal with. And in addition to all the components in lessons, Kelly added learning circles where she meets with small groups of students in discussion-style formats to supplement their learning online, right? So this is another example that the first time online Professor Kelly actually took the initiative. Hey, is this something that could really supplement the asynchronous component of the learning? And then she did it, right? Another professor is Dave Project. He's assistant professor of biology, and who teaches 2 sections of sustainable food systems course. His students had been working on a semester-long project growing their plants under different variables. I mean, of course, he's sustainable food systems and teaching biology. And instead of sacrificing all of them, he set up a series of shelves with lights in his own home and is showing the students their plants through WebEx class. So he put the plants behind his chairs, and then Dave will harvest them for the students to still be able to use the data for this project. So when you WebEx with him, it's really funny to see the huge number of plants all lined up behind him. So those are some of the examples, a few examples of our faculty who are dealing with the current circumstances by delivering a different but still great learning experience. So let me stop right here by telling you how proud I am about my colleagues. Thank you.
Gentlemen, thank you so much for sharing these stories and perspectives and reflections with our community. I'd like to switch gears now, though, and get to the community questions. Again, many of you submitted questions in advance, so we're going to take those first. Up first, many students wrote to us this week, eager to understand the grading policy for this semester. And while Dean Lapp and President Spinelli have both written about the policy revision for undergraduates this week, I do think it's worth us spending a moment on the topic, given how many students inquired. So, Dean Matsuno, could you please take us through the decision and help make everyone aware of where we stand on that policy?
Shall I take that question?
Yes, please, Ken.
Well, grading policy was for undergraduate students for spring 2020, or was recently announced by Dean Ian Lapp. And the policy was quite straightforward, but the process of decision-making was not as straightforward as the outcome. The outcome, the new policy was that we will have pass and fail options available for the students, and the decision-making timing for the students, whether they apply for pass and fail, is April 29th. That's the last class meeting day for the students. At that point of time, the students are allowed to choose whether they continue with the letter grading system or they want to switch to a pass and fail system. And the lowest passing grade is D minus. I think that is still unchanged. I think that's care was taken to make sure that this pass-fail system that's new to Babson College is going to be consistent with what we had in the past. The decision-making process was very expeditious, but a lot of care was taken because we started with the concern about the students who are going through the unprecedented disruptions in both academic and personal lives. And there seems to be no elegant and perfect solutions. I mean, and therefore what we ended up doing was to do a benchmark study. We looked at elite institutions and peer institutions such as MIT, Tufts, Duke, Carnegie Mellon, Middlebury College, BU, BC, Bentley, or many schools. There are a number of approaches, and then we consulted with Senate executive committees and the Senate as a whole. UAPC driven the process of devising the policy. And we feel good about the outcome. I think this is the sensible approach. And at the end of the day and analysis, all of us are much more willing to bet on our students' professionalism and their resolve to do the best they can. I think that's in the final analysis, I think that was the major reason why we came up with this policy.
Great, thank you so much. I'm going to keep you on the hot seat for another minute, Ken, if that's okay. As you can imagine, a lot of the students who submitted questions to us are really interested in understanding what is the plan for summer courses. So can you share a little bit about what our teams are assessing to reach different decisions and when the community can expect to learn more about summer offerings?
Right. Under the normal circumstances, by now, we should know what the summer courses look like. And it's kind of funny for us now to talk about summer, but under the circumstances, this disruptions, we really have to make a important decision. Recently, leadership team got together and discussed about the summer course offerings. And then given the uncertainty related to coronavirus situations, we have decided that all courses offered to undergraduate this summer will be delivered in fully online mode. However, a decision regarding the graduate course will be forthcoming shortly. We have not come to the conclusion yet because graduate program has been much more experienced in blended and online deliveries for the last 20 years. So perhaps the decision timing and the pressing need for decision for the graduate program is less acute than the undergraduate program. And that's why we are expecting the decision for the graduate school shortly, but the undergraduate school, as far as undergraduate school is concerned, we are going to deliver the courses all in online mode.
Thank you so much, Dean Matsuno. And Larry, maybe you can jump in here if need be, but one of the questions that a staff member submitted to us pertains to if and how Babson is tracking potential cases of COVID-19 on our campus and if employees should report to the college if they've been impacted by the virus. So I wanted to share initially, just first, I think it's really important that everyone know that at this time there are no presumptive or confirmed cases of the virus on our campus. Information about cases will be tracked by health services, public safety, and done so in conjunction with local public health officials who are tracing and reporting all contacts. If an employee, if you are directly impacted by COVID-19, we do ask that you contact HR. So, Larry, I don't know if you have anything else that you want to share, but I wanted to at least provide that initial information.
Thanks. Can you guys hear me okay? Nothing more to follow up. I know that our health services, led by Dr. Sharon Yardley, has been doing a fantastic job being in touch with any students who contact health services. It's correct in that we do not have any presumed or confirmed cases on campus. And we're certainly monitoring it closely and continue to work with all enrolled students. And of course, any faculty and staff should certainly be in touch should they have concerns, either with their manager or with HR for any support.
All right. So President Spinelli, a few questions submitted from community members relate to the financial measures you announced earlier this week, including what savings do we seek to achieve this fiscal year and next, what additional measures may be required in the next fiscal year if this crisis does extend into the fall or beyond that. I thought you might want to take a few minutes just to share with us what you're envisioning.
Yeah, thank you. As thinking around financial impact has been acute and difficult. We expect that there is about a $12 million negative impact on the financials of the college. Room and board refunds, IT costs, Babson executive education, Babson conference center, summer programs, decline in the stock market and its impact on the endowment all have negative effects on our bottom line. Remember, we're not for profit and we work toward a break-even budget, so this is fairly significant for our school. We've gone to freezing expenses and hiring. We're postponing some capital projects, and we are accommodating requested leaves. At this point, we believe that is enough amelioration of expense impact to create a healthy stressed but healthy financial environment for the college. If it stretches beyond this summer into the fall, we will relook at all expenses and have to make more difficult decisions. My expectation is that we will begin to, we have begun some planning around that. We will be more serious about looking at specific options in about 30 days. But at this point, we believe those offsets will be sufficient to maintain financial health.
Right. So another one for you, President Spinelli. Several community members are asking how the pandemic impacts the strategic planning initiatives, and a lot of questions around the future of graduate business education in particular. And I think you'll be excited to know that several of the questions that were posed really do explore the entrepreneurial opportunity that may exist to meet learners' needs in these new and changing conditions.
Yeah, I think it's a testimony to entrepreneurship. I think the requirement for entrepreneurial behavior and entrepreneurial leadership has been building as variables and as economic circumstances become more rapid paced. The value of Babson becomes more and more evident. I think this throws kerosene on that fire. The relevance of our strategic plan and our core competencies has never been greater, and I think there is an expansion of our value proposition as a result of this. The fact is that much of what we are planning in the strategy is being implemented as a part of our response to the corona crisis. We looked at alternative systems and deliveries. We had made investments in infrastructure and IT. We began ramping up training. We were prepared for more training. We put in technology classrooms. We had more specific physical infrastructure and looking at how that would be modified. What this problem has done for me is to validate that our perspective on the future of business education was dead on, and that this is going to cause us to have greater value in the marketplace. The fact is that the disruption will be acute as long as the virus is, the term of the virus is unknown. And we are going to have to operate in that day-to-day model until we have better vision into the future, some clarity into the future. I expect that the specific planning, that we've done a lot of the planning on the strategic plan and a lot of the modeling for it, and a lot of the resource requirements have been articulated. I think we're going to pause on the planning piece and continue with some implementation, specifically in the alternative models and the promulgation of a digital strategy and in the growth of the Arthur M. Blank School for Entrepreneurial Leadership. Those are in place, and much of that is already funded, and I think that we can lever those. The entire strategic plan, I think, will have only minor delays in the creation of it because, frankly, people are taxed. And we have to be reasonable about what our expectation is of the management team and of the employees of the institution, and be respectful of their health also. So I think there will be some slowdown in some pieces of it, but generally speaking, the AMB-SEL and the digital strategy will probably become accelerated.
That's great. And a few questions being posed, President Spinelli, about what you're seeing and experiencing with the incoming class, the class of 2024, and if there's any impact for our community to be aware of at this point.
Yeah, fascinating question and fascinating phenomenon. To date, we have the most, only barely, but the most qualified class we will have ever admitted, one of the most diverse classes, and fully enrolled. Now, and our deposits are ahead of where they were last year. And that is across all programs, undergraduate and graduate. I don't know what it means in the next 30 days. And we are watching it very carefully, and we have modeled lots of enrollment management scenarios as a part of this. But until we know the timeline, it is really difficult to say what the impact is going to be. If it's over soon, then I don't think the impact will be very substantial. If it goes into the fall, then I think it will be very substantial, and we'll have to relook at everything.
Very helpful. Reassuring, though, at this point, to some extent. Dean Ward, question for you from a student. What academic and wellness and other supports are available this semester if a student is dealing with a challenging situation at home while trying to study?
Yeah, it's a great question and a very real question. So all of our traditional support mechanisms, whether supporting the academic experience or the challenges that students experience while they're enrolled at school, whether online or face-to-face, remain available virtually. So for students who might have an academic question or need planning purposes, our class deans, accessibility services, all of the curriculum support, say for students enrolled in FME, are all available virtually, and students are encouraged and welcome to reach out at any time to those support services. In terms of health and wellness, and particularly mental and emotional health, I think it's really, really critical in this time. Our clinicians remain available virtually to our students, and all of the support staff, regardless of where they are, in student engagement, the Student Life Suite, our residence education folks are all available to support students, and students need only reach out either by phone call. Our phone lines are being monitored. Send an email. All of our staff have access to WebEx, and so if students are comfortable seeing the person in front of them and talking about it, we are there to do that. Regardless of what the issue is, and if students aren't sure who they should talk to, then they can send me an email, and I will help connect them to the right resource.
Wonderful. That's fantastic. Thank you. And while we're kind of in this realm of students adapting to different environments where they're learning from, Dean Matsuno, another question that came to us pertains to the challenges students face if they live outside of the Eastern time zone. And I'm wondering if you can share a little bit about how Babson faculty members are trying to address that challenge in their courses.
Thank you very much. I think that's a very good question. This online learning technology, WebEx, are wonderful so that we could actually reach out without any geographical boundary as far as internet connection is available. But that didn't, so far, right, eliminate all the time zones we have. So you are talking about Eastern time zone. Well, we have Pacific time zone. Well, that's relatively small. If you think about the time difference between here and Beijing, that's 12 hours, right? With Mumbai, that's 9 hours, right? And I think Istanbul, I think is 7 or 8 hours, right? So we are now dealing with this time zones that still exist, and then with the students all around the world. So I think we have to really think about carefully the design of the online learning experience. So yes, we have a WebEx, and that is great for synchronous, but it's also great for recording purpose for the lecturer. So many, if not all, faculty are really actually recording their lectures. So I think that is make the lecture part as asynchronous learning components. And I think the synchronous components can be, in fact, the supplemental module to the asynchronous module. So I think the faculty members needs to be really careful, and then needs to really understand the location and the demographics of the students when they are moving into this online teaching mode. I know many faculty members actually did a short survey, the location of the students and also the internet connection environment, so that they could accommodate the diversity of the constraints that students have to deal with. So I think it's really about the co-creation process between the faculty and students, informing each other and what works best. But in general, I would encourage faculty members to really build a course and design the course on the asynchronous component, supplemented by a well-designed synchronous component. Some faculty members are doing a synchronous with a discussion group or even office hours to supplement the asynchronous learning. I think that's one of the ways to deal with this time zone issue.
Thank you. And as we think about students who have been studying abroad, I know there were a couple of questions pertaining to that. I just want to share that the work of the Glavin office, Amir Reza, Lorian Ramito, and those teams, they have been working hand in hand with our students who have been studying abroad for weeks now, trying to support their decisions and facilitate alternative plans for them to follow based on what would be safe for them. So just want to make sure that for those of you that inquired about that, you know that there has been just a tremendous effort to support students who are studying abroad this semester as well. Another question that just came in over the transom here is really, I think, out of care and concern for Babson colleagues who may be hourly and impacted by the change in campus operation. And so, Dean Ward, I don't know if there's maybe something you want to share about the facilities teams and the dining teams and so many of the other members of the staff and those and how they may be affected by campus operations changes.
Yeah, that's a really good question. First, I think really all of our employees are really affected. You know, we are working remotely for the most part. We have our essential services folks who are here on campus, but you know, folks are asked to do their jobs as well as parent and take care of all of their other responsibilities while working remotely. You know, so I had a one-on-one with a staff member whose child was sitting in her lap, and it was absolutely no concern to me. I think that's part of being a supportive institution. In terms of our hourly staff, we've asked every manager, and HR has led this effort, to submit business continuity plans that allow us to understand how we are going to operate remotely, not only over the next couple of weeks, over the next couple of months, and beyond. And so our managers and division heads have worked on those plans. And by and large, most of the units feel like staff can work successfully remotely. And there will inevitably be certain situations where staff may have to be redeployed in ways that are creative and innovative and slightly different than their regular roles and responsibility, but no less important to the college. And so faculty and staff who have concerns about their role, whether they are hourly or salaried folks, really ought to reach out to their manager. And if managers have questions, they really should be engaged with HR to help navigate those issues.
Great. Thanks, Larry. President Spinelli, a couple questions coming in that I think are perfect for you to address. The first is, what advice do you have for those students who are about to graduate this spring and enter into this world that is so dramatically changed from what we experienced even just a few weeks ago?
Yeah, my first recommendation is something I'm doing myself, which is to document the process and to document this experience. If this is a live case, how am I reacting to the variables in the case and the circumstances, and how am I solving problems and creating value as a result of that experience? I would suggest that very few seniors who get interviewed this late spring and summer will be able to articulate the value of their education in terms of a real-time, massive problem-solving exercise. So how did I get home? How did I support my fellow students? How did I complete my education? How did I integrate the rest of my life into this? Why is Babson entrepreneurial thinking so important to the management of the future of the enterprise I'm applying to? I think that's a very unique perspective to have. The second thing I would recommend is that you take heed about Dean Ward's comments regarding spatial separation, but not social separation. That how are you going to stay connected to your network, both your peer network and your professorial network and the staff and administration? How do you contribute to a Babson economic, social, environmental network of friends and colleagues that can persist beyond this? And what kinds of contributions will that experience make to the future of Babson College, and how will these experiences help you be a leader in our alumni community? If you do all of those, I think you set yourself apart.
Ken or Larry, either of you want to jump in on that one? Share any thoughts?
About navigating what graduating seniors or those preparing to finish the semester. Well, I think one of the things I was talking with our athletic director earlier about this very issue. I think it would be much harder if this were just a Babson phenomenon or just a Massachusetts phenomenon or an East Coast. This is a global phenomenon, and so I think we are all being impacted at the same time, although we experience it differently. And so I think what I would recommend to students is to take a breath, to try as much as possible to pull back and focus on what you have versus what you no longer have or what you think you no longer have. And oftentimes when you focus on what remains available to me, what are the things that I have, those networks that Dr. Spinelli talked about, the friendships, and how do I feed those, right? So energy is a finite thing, and you can either spend it on your anxieties or you can invest it in optimism and in the future. And there'll be times when you just like, today's not my day, I'm not feeling it, I'm feeling down in dumps. That's okay. Call someone who can raise you out of that. But I think focusing on the future and the optimism, because the quality of a Babson education, including this experience, will prepare you for success for the remainder of your life.
Well, I don't contradict with Steve and Larry. Two things I want to share with you. The first is this kind of difficult time will really force us to think what's really, really important. Yes, of course, we have work, we have the things to do, but when you experience this unprecedented disruption, and then it's a great opportunity to really think about who you are and then what's important to you. Oftentimes that is your family members, that is your loved ones, that is your parents, and perhaps something that you're really, really passionate about. Maybe your profession or maybe your project and things like that. So I think this is a great opportunity to stop and think about what's really important to us individually. And the second thing is a little bit more sort of like a operational. As a dean of faculty, I mean, I had a conversation with the chairs and deans the other day, and we talked about the human resource planning. Staffing level assessment we started doing last November, right? Of course, in November, we never imagined this could happen, right? But nonetheless, we started to plan the staffing level, had a very hard look at what's needed and what courses need to be staffed and how many hours we have to have in our hands. And that was a very rigorous process. And with that, we are very comfortable with the projection about a staffing level, even after this unprecedented financial challenge. So I think, with or without crisis, there are certain things that we could do, and then that effort can get us through even unprecedented crises like this. So I think, like it's not like a Boy Scout, be prepared for anything. I think that is something that we have to remember. Anything could happen, but I think if we do make it a habit to do a rigorous sort of analysis, honest with ourselves, I think that is really important in this kind of time.
I'll just add for Babson graduates, you join a network of some 40,000 global entrepreneurs of all kinds worldwide, right? And that is a rich network that you have, not just for your time here on our campus, but for your entire life. And that alumni network that you are about to join this spring wants to help and have already responded by answering the call to support the Student Emergency Fund, to try to host students, and we'll be doing even more in the coming days and weeks, I know, to support you as you enter the workforce or rejoin the workforce. And so look for opportunities to rely on your fellow alums to help you on your journey. President Spinelli, we're getting a number of questions for students as they get acclimated to learning online, just trying to understand the value of that experience, what will supplement beyond what's been migrated online this week, so that we understand better kind of the fuller Babson experience that will take place virtually now over the course of the next several weeks.
Well, let me be clear that I think that the world has really changed, and that these experiences are going to be a part of your normal life going forward. Not only in the way you learn, but in the way you manage your companies, in the way that you engage your employment, your customers and your colleagues, your supply chain. The experience you're having in the classroom will maybe more directly be relevant to the experience you're going to live with as an executive. I think you need to fully explore that and to continue to understand how you can contribute to a digital set of communications. I don't ever believe that it will be only digital, that we will get together more, that you will be invited back to campus, you will come back to your homes, and we will celebrate, and maybe we'll do additional learning as a part of that celebration. And maybe that a lifelong learner becomes a real objective of this whole consequence of this whole crisis. We can access those 40,000 wonderful minds in a different way. The amount of input we've had from our alums and their willingness to help us and to connect with classrooms and to do guest lectures and to give support to students has been almost overwhelming. That's a network that has been building over 100 years, but I think has just gained a generation of growth in the last 2 weeks. This senior class is really the pioneering class to create the next alumni, lifelong learning community at Babson. You're the ones that are going to lead us in this. Your experience will teach us a lot. Partner with us and continue the learning experience for the next 40 or 50 or 60 or 70 years, and we can do something truly special. The purpose of staying connected is to build a human spirit and understanding and to create value for society. I think that this is an exceptionally difficult and exceptionally important experience in your lives. Your class is going to be famous forever, by the way. Going through this is something that not a lot of people have ever gone through, and I hope a lot of people won't have to go through again. But disruption is a part of life, and you may be the most expert graduates in the history of the world to deal with it.
Before we only have a few minutes left in our session, I just want to note a couple of things at this point. First of all, just how extraordinary it is that we have 651 community members joining us and participating in this WebEx today. We cannot thank you enough for coming together and being part of this and continuing to share your questions and to be together, even if we are apart. Also want to say that there are a number of questions that we aren't going to have time to get to, but want to refer you all to the special website that was launched several weeks ago, babson.edu/coronavirus, where you will find just a tremendous amount of information and resource guides based on a lot of the logistical questions or other technical aspects or concerns that you may have at this time. So please keep referring and visiting that site. It changes almost daily as new information becomes available and as decisions are reached and shared with the community. So again, www.babson.edu/coronavirus. President Spinelli, we got a question from a community member, which I think is probably the right note for us to close on here today. Hold on one second. Let me get it back up on my screen here. And that is really that going forward, how do you think Babson as an institution, as a community, will change or transform when this crisis is over?
Thank you. It is a good question because I am incredibly encouraged that the trajectory we were on to really transform business education and into entrepreneurship education as a standard of understanding to be able to navigate a difficult world is now elevated and accelerated. We will, I think, emerge from this a standard of curriculum that is almost a requirement to truly get a great business education. It's our time to lead.
Fantastic. Dean Ward, Dean Matsuno, any other closing thoughts on your part? We are almost out of time here.
Ken?
Okay. Well, I mean, well, last year I had interviews to the Dean of Faculty. I mean, just about this time, I think I had a series of interviews, and I was a regular faculty member. I never thought of becoming the Dean of Faculty myself. And then a year later, I'm in this position, and then this coronavirus thing. So nothing can be planned. And then this is this is an interesting experience. But I have been always, I mean, have a great faith in the ability of our students and faculty to deal with a number of challenges. And yes, we are. I mean, I'm also part of faculty. We are sometimes difficult people to work with. But I think you know, when we are confronted with a challenge, I realize that we tend to take a deep breath and then be quiet for some time, and then all of a sudden we started to work on it. I think that's the sort of a culture of Babson faculty. I think sometimes you hear the clearing throat, you know, and then the next time you realize, I think the faculty tends to take that as a challenge and then focus on solving the problem. I have been encouraged and then inspired by many of my faculty colleagues, and I have been very proud of my colleagues. So that's what I wanted to say. And I thank you very much. I thank all the faculty members in making these things happen. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I'll just end where I started with a note of gratitude. You know, many of you know I live on campus, and went for a walk last night around campus, and I have to say, in full disclosure, it was one of the saddest things. I had a sad moment, right, because parking lots were empty and the buildings were largely empty. Some community members walking their dogs and so on and so forth. But then I woke up today and thinking about this community forum, hearing that there are, you know, almost 700 people online. Community hasn't gone anywhere. The community is still strong, and it's one of the things that I love so much about this institution is that people really believe in Babson, capital B. They believe in this community, and they continue to embrace each other. And so if I had to be somewhere else, I don't think I would feel as strong and as optimistic as I feel being part of Babson. So just an expression of gratitude for every member of this community, regardless of what role you play. Just really appreciate how much you mean to me and how much you mean to this institution. Thank you.
Okay. And President Spinelli, as we think about, you know, some of what our students themselves have shared about the need for continuity of community, right? And that we're looking at physical distancing, but certainly not social separation. You know, maybe share a few thoughts about continuing these forums online and just other opportunities and hopes for people to continue to connect.
Well, and I think there are so many segments of the Babson community that can stay connected either as a large group or special interest groups or common sets of interests, that we now understand that the world can be connected across time and place and interests, and we should maintain it. I think it's really interesting your quoting of the 42,000 alums, Babson alums. that's a small school, but we come from such a common cultural understanding that we have a responsibility to solve problems, to create value, and to be leaders in that process. That's why when we have a crisis of this nature and people come together so quickly, this institution was built for this kind of problem. It was really built to bring that kind of leadership to society. This is an interesting moment to test that theory. And I think we will prove to be some of the great problem solvers of our time. And we can do something really special. I am particularly impressed with the students and the way they've approached it and how gracious many of them have been to the school and to me. And I'm grateful for their maturity and their positive outlook. I'm really hopeful for the future and confident in Babson.
Fantastic. Well, thank you everyone for taking the time to tune in, to share your questions, to hear from us. We so appreciate it. We will do this again regularly, in addition to a number of other ways that we remain to stay connected. But just wish you all health and peace in this environment, and hope that you continue to take very good care of yourself and those around you. So until next time, thanks again, and we'll be in touch soon.
Peace.
Have a nice weekend.